This is something that, as you define success, it's very relative. I think architecture actually benefits from a fairly unstructured approach to marketing, and so this will offer opportunities for you to decide really what's working for you and what's not. But the ultimate thing is remembering what those goals were that you set out. If you wanted to win a certain type of project, and then you got closer to it, or you won it, or you made an incremental step in the direction of, you were able to meet the Department of Transport commissioner in your city because you started sort of expressing yourself in the direction of that project, that's a success marker. I think the really important thing as you define success is that it takes time and consistent work. A lot of the time it takes hiring somebody who is not an architect, but a marketer or PR person, somebody with a training totally different from your own, who understands what you do but doesn't do what you do. I think having architects do marketing is generally a recipe for failure. Not to say that you can't do it, but if you had marketers doing architecture, I think you can imagine it would not be going well. And then, of course, the industry KPIs. And this is something that the PR people at your firm have probably told you about if you have them. Share of voice is something that you can cut up in a lot of ways, but it's basically how much of the percentage of the pie do you have relative to the competitors that you have. And if you can define 5 to 7 competitors who you are routinely actually competing against, or in the brand space that you're competing against, and you can sort of picture like the OMAs, the Bigs, the Zahas are sort of in a bucket, right? That they are competing against each other. They can decide, if Big has 35% of the share of voice and OMA has another 20. There is actually software that can measure this, and there's this whole sort of media monitoring world that I have these dashboards, for example, set up for my clients where I can tell how they're performing in real time. AVE is a term that is very, very kind of in the weeds, but is the equivalent value if you had to spend money on advertising. So it's advertising value equivalent. If you were to spend $50 million, say, on advertising, where would that get you? And say being on the cover of the New York Times is, I would say, the pinnacle of that. That's probably hundreds of millions of dollars worth of advertising spend. And architects never pay for advertising. I think if anybody recommends that you pay for advertising, they are wrong. Because architecture is a place that can earn organic coverage in virtually every vertical. But this is an important value marker because when you're spending a ton of money on it and you're thinking, oh, this is a money pit, it's not going anywhere, you can actually measure it and say, well, if I was on the cover of the New York Times, that was worth $150 million in visibility, and the visibility then translates to, if you know anybody in advertising, number of eyeballs have seen you, and then the conversion rate, et cetera. But the really important thing at the end of the day is to stay the course, that this is a really long game, and you need to build a strategy and stick to it, but allow for change, which is to say that if a war starts or if the industry takes a downturn, all of this can be modified, and you don't have to marry yourself to it and get boxed in by it. And and also in terms of how it's managed with my clients, some are big organizations that have their own comms teams, some are tiny firms that have absolutely nobody, and I'm working with architects and helping them directly to make this happen, but everybody has a role to play. If you have a team, they can provide you content, they can share it with your social media manager, they can share it with your PR person, that person can figure out what to do with it. There's a whole way to kind of engage with this, even if you don't have a direct remit of the work. But really, it's just about not giving up. I think this is something that architects should really take to heart, that it's important to continue to do this. Marketing is not a hobby, it is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and it's something that requires a level of consistency and perseverance, which, again, whether you outsource it or not, is important. And the agility, obviously, you do not get married to your messaging. I would recommend changing it every certain amount of years. As an example of this, awards used to be, the number of awards a firm had won used to be like the metric, right? It's like we've won 50 awards, we've won 100 awards. Nobody is saying that anymore because volume is not the thing anymore, it's quality. And so it's, have you won like the award everybody wants to win? And so it's this shift from, winning 2,000 awards to winning the best awards. Social media is really important. This is something that, even though I would say TikTok right now is not worth it, in a couple of years it might be. Who knows?